Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. You know we love to dig into your tech questions, and today we're tackling a big one, the Acer Aspire series.
Oh yeah, looks like you've got a ton of material there from our listeners, so much to cover.
Seriously, there is. But you know, that's the fun part. We get to uncover what makes these laptops tick and why you should even care.
Absolutely. And you know, one thing that always jumps out to me is how long Acer has been making these things. We're talking since 1995, like even before some of our listeners were born, I bet.
1995, whoa, that's like the dinosaur age of computers. Dial-up internet and everything. Yeah. I can't believe they've managed to stick around this long in such a crazy tech world.
Right. It's pretty impressive. I mean, that's gotta mean they're doing something right to survive for so long. I think it shows they've really had time to figure out what works and what people really need in a laptop.
Makes sense. And that kind of leads into the whole variety they offer, right? I mean, we're talking Aspire 1, Aspire Switch, Aspire V Nitro, Aspire E. It's like a whole Aspire family reunion.
Yeah. It's wild. Like with the Aspire one, those were the early netbooks all about portability. And then you've got the Switch, which is like that cool convertible design that's a laptop and tablet in one.
Oh yeah, those are super neat.
Definitely. And for the gamers out there, there's the V Nitro packing some serious performance punch.
Yeah.
And of course, you can't forget about the trusty Aspire E series budget-friendly without skimping on the features.
Wow, so many options.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing how they cater to so many different types of users with those. It's like choosing your fighter for the digital world.
I mean, speaking of, you mentioned you're interested in using a laptop for, pauses. So thinking about that, which one of those sub-series sounds like it might be up your alley so far?
It's definitely smart to keep that in mind from the start. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, I think it's time to peek under the hood and talk performance. Because at the end of the day, if a laptop can't keep up with you, what's the point?
You're telling me. A laptop that can't even handle opening a web browser is basically just a very expensive paperweight. Exactly. So when we're diving into Aspire performance, we got to talk processors. We're talking Intel Core i5, i7, or maybe you're an AMD fan, so we've got Ryzen 3 or 5 in the bill too.
So for like your average user who's browsing the web, working on docs, watching some videos, those processors are probably more than enough to keep things running smoothly.
For sure. But let's say you want a little more oomph. I know you mentioned some light video editing. Something like an Aspire 7 with an i7 processor would be a good step up for that. And if you ever want to level up to some seriously demanding stuff, they even have those Aspire V Nitro and VX series with dedicated NVIDIA GeForce GTX or RTX GPUs.
Wait, hold up. GPUs. Aren't those the things that make video games look all crazy realistic and help with like graphic design and stuff?
Yeah.
I'm starting to think these Aspires are more than just your average email checking machines.
Oh, they are for sure. Those dedicated GPUs are like having a turbo boost for anything visually demanding.
Okay, I see you, Acer. Sneaking in some serious power under the radar. No wonder people love these things. It's not just about saving money, it's about getting the right performance for your needs. But you know, I'm a bit of a sucker for aesthetics. I don't want to be lugging around some clunky, boring-looking laptop.
What about design? Have the Aspires kept up with the times in the looks department?
I'm telling you, you'd be surprised. Acer has really stepped up their design game, even on their more affordable models. We're talking slim bezels, lightweight materials. They even have some stylish finishes.
Oh, so stylish A&D portable? No, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And if you really want to go all out, you got to check out the Aspire S series. Those are like the supermodels of the Aspire family, known for their super thin designs and those high-end materials.
I think I've seen those. They're definitely eye-catching. But let's be real. All that fancy design is useless if the battery dies after an hour, right? I'm always paranoid about that.
I get it. Nobody wants to be chained to an outlet all day. Thankfully, it seems like battery life is something Acer took to heart with the Aspire series. Okay, good to know. So realistically, how long can I expect one of these things to last on a single charge? Like, can I actually get through a workday without scrambling for an outlet?
Well, obviously it depends on the model and what you're doing, but yeah, a lot of them can get you through a full workday. We're talking 7 to 10 hours on a single charge, no problem. They've even got some models with that quick charge technology, which is a lifesaver if you're in a rush.
That's music to my ears. A long battery life is a must-have for me. Always on the go. But hold on, what about connectivity? Can these things connect to everything I need, like Wi-Fi, external displays, The whole shebang.
For sure. Acer didn't skimp on the essentials. You've got USB-C ports for fast data and charging, HDMI for those external displays, and even Wi-Fi 6 support on some models for those crazy fast internet speeds.
Wi-Fi 6. Isn't that like the super fast Wi-Fi everyone's talking about? Like I could be downloading massive files, streaming movies, and video chatting all at the same time without a hitch.
Exactly. Seamless connectivity is the name of the game these days, and Acer knows it.
Okay, I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed so far. But there's one thing that's still kind of bugging me.
Oh, what's that?
We've talked a lot about the hardware, the design, the processing power, but what about the software? Like, are these things actually easy to use, even if you're not some kind of tech genius?
That's a super important question. A laptop is only as good as its software, right?
Yeah.
The good news is that Acer really seems to have focused on making the Aspires user-friendly, even for those who aren't super techy. They usually come with Windows already installed, which most people are pretty familiar with.
Yeah, Windows is like the old reliable of the computer world. So even someone who's not a computer whiz can pick up an Aspire and get going without feeling totally lost, right?
Totally. And on top of that, Acer throws in some of their own software for stuff like system optimization and updates, and they've tried to keep it all pretty simple and easy to use, even if you don't like messing with settings.
So it's like they took care of all the behind-the-scenes stuff, so you can just focus on using the laptop and getting things done. I like that.
Me too. It's all about making the technology work for you, not the other way around.
Well, I'm definitely feeling a lot more clued in on this whole Acer Aspire world now. We've only just scratched the surface, but it feels like we've uncovered a whole universe of possibilities. There's still so much to explore, though, so be sure to join us for part 2 of this deep dive, where we'll get into the nitty-gritty of each sub-series and uncover even more hidden gems.
Sounds like a plan. I'm ready when you are.
Perfect. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the deep dive. Last time, we kind of got our feet wet in the Acer Aspire world, exploring that long history and seeing just how many different laptops they have. Now it's time to roll up our sleeves and really dig into the details of what makes each Aspire series unique, like what makes them tick.
Sounds good to me. Where do you want to start?
Well, you mentioned the Aspire 5 and 7 series are kind of like the core of the Aspire family, right? They seem like the ones you can really rely on for everyday stuff. So what makes them stand out?
I think a big part of it is that balance of performance and price. They usually have those Intel Core i5 or i7 processors, or the AMD Ryzen 3 or 5, if that's your thing. More than enough for everyday stuff like browsing, working on docs, or streaming videos.
Right, so they can handle the basics without breaking a sweat. What about their design and build quality? Are we talking like flimsy plastic laptops, or did Acer actually put some effort into making them look and feel good?
One thing that surprised me when I was looking into these was how much emphasis Acer has put on design lately. Even the more affordable models, like the Aspire 5, have those slim bezels around the screen, which gives them a much more modern look. And they've definitely stepped up their game with the materials, using nicer finishes that don't feel cheap at all.
So no more clunky, boring laptops. I'm all for that. I know I mentioned battery life before, but it's worth bringing up again. What good is a laptop if it dies on you after like 2 hours?
Oh, absolutely. Battery life is crucial, especially if you're always on the go. And the good news is that the Aspire 5 and 7 series don't disappoint. You're looking at around 7 to 10 hours on a single charge, depending on the model and what you're doing, of course.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Especially considering they're not super expensive. It sounds like those are a solid choice for students, casual users, or anyone who needs a good, reliable laptop without spending a fortune.
I'd say so. They're a great balance of features and performance at a decent price. But now let's switch gears a bit and talk about the Aspires for people who need a bit more power, like the Aspire V Nitro and VX series.
Oh yeah, the powerhouses. I remember reading that those are the ones for gamers and content creators who need a machine that can handle the really demanding stuff. So what sets those apart from the rest?
Well, for starters, they've got much more powerful processors, like the Intel Core i7 or even i9 chips, or those high-end AMD Ryzen 7 or 9 CPUs.
Okay, that's getting pretty serious.
Right. And for all those graphics-intensive tasks that gamers and creators need, they come with dedicated NVIDIA GeForce GTX or RTX graphics cards.
So we're not just talking about browsing the web and editing docs anymore. These are laptops that can handle things like video editing, 3D rendering, serious gaming, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly. And to go along with all that power, the V Nitro and VX series usually come with high refresh rate displays for smoother visuals, plenty of RAM and storage space, and they even have those advanced cooling systems so they don't overheat when you're pushing them to the limit.
Got it. So if I'm a gamer who wants to play the latest games with all the bells and whistles, or a content creator who needs a machine that can keep up with my workflow, these are the ones to look at.
Absolutely, they're built for it.
Now, I have to ask about the convertibles, the Aspire Switch series. Those are the ones that can transform from a laptop to a tablet, right? I've always been curious about those, but I've never actually used one. What's the appeal?
Well, it's all about versatility and portability. Think about it. You can detach the screen and use it like a tablet for reading, browsing, taking notes, whatever. Then, when you need a keyboard in that traditional laptop experience, just dock it back in the base.
That's pretty cool, especially for students, artists, or anyone who's always on the move. But do they skimp on performance to make them that portable?
Not necessarily. They may not have the raw power of the V-Nitro series, but the Aspire Switch models still pack a decent punch. You can find them with powerful processors, enough RAM to handle multitasking, and a pretty solid battery life.
So they're not just a gimmick. They can actually be productive, depending on what you need them for.
Exactly. And they're perfect for people who really value flexibility and mobility.
So we've covered the workhorses, the powerhouses, and now the transformers of the Aspire world. But before we move on, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, the software experience.
You mean the whole user-friendliness thing and the software that comes pre-installed on these?
Right. We know they usually come with Windows, but does Acer do anything else to make their laptops more user-friendly?
Yeah.
More enjoyable to use?
Well, they do include some of their own software, like Acer Care Center, which is supposed to help you keep your system optimized and up to date and running smoothly. And they've really tried to simplify the interface and make it more intuitive no matter your technical skill level.
So even if I'm not a tech expert, I can pick up an Aspire and figure it out pretty easily.
That's the idea. It seems like Acer has really put a lot of thought into making their laptops accessible to everyone, from the tech savvy to the beginners.
That's great. Technology should be empowering, not intimidating. But, while we've been talking a lot about the technical stuff, the specs and features, there's something else that I find really... You mentioned earlier that Acers have been making these things for almost 30 years. That's longer than some of our listeners have been alive.
I know, right? It's pretty wild.
I mean, when you've been in the game that long, you got to have a pretty good understanding of what people want from a laptop.
You would think. And over those 3 decades, they've constantly been innovating and adapting, keeping up with all the changes in technology and figuring out what users need. Think about it. They started with those early netbooks focused on portability, then came the convertibles, then those powerful gaming laptops, and everything in between.
It's like they've been on this constant journey of evolution, always refining their craft.
It's not just about selling laptops. It's about understanding the human element and how technology can actually make our lives better.
And that's a really cool way to look at it. They've managed to stay relevant and successful for so long because they've always been focused on the user experience and providing value at different price points.
For sure.
It's not just about the specs on paper. It's about the story behind those specs and the company that's driving that innovation.
Absolutely. It makes you appreciate what Acer has done with the Aspire series even more.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've gone from those budget-friendly Aspire 5s to those powerhouse V-Nitros and explored the ins and outs of the Acer Aspire series. It's clear that there's an Aspire for just about everyone, whether you're a student, a gamer, a creative professional, or just need a reliable and affordable laptop. But before we wrap things up, I think it's time to open up the floor to our listeners. We've gotten some awesome questions, and I think it would be helpful to tackle some of them directly.
Great idea. Let's hear what everyone's curious about.
Awesome. We'll do just that right after this. All right, we're back for the final part of our deep dives into the Acer Aspire series. It's been a blast exploring all the different models and what makes them tick. And now, as promised, it's time to tackle some of the excellent questions we've gotten from you, our fantastic listeners.
I'm excited to see what everyone wants to know. Let's do it.
Okay, first up, I'm a college student on a super tight budget. Which Aspire would you recommend for me? That's a question we get a lot, and it makes sense because, finding the right laptop for school can make a huge difference. What do you think?
Well, if you're really watching your wallet, I'd definitely say check out the Aspire 5 series. You can usually find them for under $500, which is a pretty sweet deal for a laptop that can handle all the basics.
And they're usually pretty light and portable, which is perfect for students who are always running around between classes and the library and, maybe squeeze in a coffee break or two.
Right. Just make sure you look at the specs and get one with enough RAM and storage for what you need. Like, if you're planning on doing any light video editing or graphic design, you might want a model with a bit more RAM and a faster processor.
That's great advice. Okay, next question. I'm a gamer and want to play all the latest AAA games. Can an Aspire laptop really handle that? So this is a question that gets to the heart of whether Aspires can really deliver when it comes to performance. What are your thoughts?
For serious gamers, I think those Aspire V Nitro and VX series are definitely worth a look. They come with powerful processors, dedicated graphics cards, and those high refresh rate displays, so you can really get that smooth, immersive gaming experience. They're built to handle those demanding games.
Yeah, gaming laptops do tend to be more expensive, but it sounds like those Aspires offer a pretty good value for the performance you get.
I think so. They're definitely competitive with other gaming laptops out there, especially when you consider that Acer is known for making reliable and affordable stuff.
All right, here's a question I think a lot of people can relate to. I'm a writer and need a laptop with a comfortable keyboard and long battery life. Any recommendations? As a writer myself, I know how important a good keyboard and a long-lasting battery are, especially for those long writing sessions.
Yeah, for writers, I'd probably recommend the Aspire 7 series. A lot of them have those keyboards that are known for being comfy and responsive, good key travel and all that. And they usually have excellent battery life, so you can power through those writing marathons without hunting for an outlet.
And a lot of the Aspire 7 models have those bigger screens, which is a nice bonus for writers who are staring at text all day. It's easier on the eyes, and you can see more of your document at once.
Oh, for sure. Those little details can make a big difference in how productive and comfortable you are when you're working.
Okay, let's see. I'm a photographer who needs a laptop for editing photos and videos. Which Aspire would be best for me? Photo and video editing can really push a laptop to its limits, so it's super important to choose wisely there.
For photographers and videographers, I'd say go with the Aspire 7, or maybe even the Aspire V Nitro series if you have the budget and you're doing some seriously intensive editing. The key things to look for are a good processor, plenty of RAM, and a display with high resolution and accurate colors.
And if you're doing a lot of video editing, a dedicated graphics card would definitely be a good idea. It can really speed up that rendering process and save you a ton of time.
Totally agree. It all comes down to finding the right balance between performance and price based on your specific needs.
All right, last question. I'm just looking for a basic laptop for browsing the web, checking email, watching videos, that kind of thing. Do I really need an Aspire? This is a great question because, well, not everyone needs a superpowered machine. Sometimes simple and reliable is all you need for everyday tasks.
That's true. If all you really need is something basic, you could probably get away with a cheaper Chromebook or even a tablet, But I still think the Aspire series offers a lot of value for the price, even at the lower end.
Right, and you get that Acer reputation for reliability and durability.
Exactly. Plus, you'll probably find the keyboard and touchpad are way more comfortable and responsive than what you'd get on a super cheap laptop. So if you want a laptop that will last a few years and is enjoyable to use, an Aspire might still be the way to go.
Well, I think we've pretty much covered everything there is to know about the Acer Aspire series. From those early netbooks to the sleek and modern designs they have now, we've explored it all. And we've seen that there really is an Aspire for just about everyone, no matter your budget or what you need it for.
I think the biggest takeaway is that Acer has always been about making reliable, innovative laptops that are affordable for a wide range of users.
It's not just about selling computers. It's about empowering people with technology that fits their lives.
Well said. It's been awesome diving deep into this world with you and our listener.
Same here. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this journey. We hope you learned something new and maybe even found the perfect Aspire for you.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep on diving deep.